Good luck, everybody. So let me tell you, Maisa, there was the Baal Shem Tov was certainly surrounded by all different types. You had very chashuv Yidden that connected themselves to him, and there was Amcha Beis Yisrael, all sorts of interesting characters. So this is a Maisa about one of those interesting characters. The Maisa goes that someone once came to the Baal Shem with a very funny request. The request was, Rabbi, I want to meet Eliyahu Navi. I want to meet Eliyahu Navi. So Baal Shem Tov, it's cute. The Baal Shem Tov said, to meet Eliyahu Navi is not a simple thing. Okay, and then he brushed him off to the side. Meanwhile, the next day, the guy comes back. Rabbi, I want to meet Eliyahu. And it goes like this. It's like a mishagas that the person has in his head. He wants to meet Eliyahu Navi. So the Baal Shem Tov at some point says, you know what? If you really want to meet Eliyahu Navi, and the guy says, yeah, I really do. He says, fine. Then you have to follow these instructions exactly. Then you'll meet Eliyahu Navi. He says, fine, I'll do anything. This is what you do. He says, today's Thursday. I want you, tomorrow, which is Friday afternoon, late, mamish, a few minutes before candlelighting, I want you to go to this particular address. It's a particular house at the outskirts of this particular shtetl, and it's all the way out there in the boondocks, all the way in the woods. But you go to this house a few minutes before candlelighting, and you bring with you 2 suitcases. One suitcase full of Shabbos food, okay, for you and a family for Shabbos, and one suitcase full of children's clothing. That's what you bring. And you knock on the door, and you say the following spiel. You say, listen, I'm so sorry to do this to you. I've been traveling, I'm stuck on the road, I have nowhere to go. It's a few minutes before Shabbos. Please, if you could take me and Nachnas Azarchim, it would, please. And the Baal Shem Tov said the family's going to take you in, and over there you'll meet Eliyahu Navi. It's gewaldig, fine. So that's what he does. He has his 2 suitcases, goes to that address a few minutes before candlelighting, knocks on the door, and he opens the door, and immediately before anyone says anything, he takes a scene of what's going on. There's this poor woman that opens the door, clearly a widow, and she has children in the house, some older, some younger, and he notices right away the poverty of this house is unimaginable, and that was a time where everyone was poor almost, and this was terrible poverty. There was no food, the children's clothing were tattered, the house was in disarray. It was just a really terrible matzav. So he gathers his thoughts and he begins his whole speech. I've been traveling, I'm here for, I got stuck, I'm here a few minutes before candlelighting, please, if you could take me in. And she says, of course, you're a Jew, we'll take you in 100%. Please come in. So he comes in. And she says to him, listen, I'll tell you the truth, my husband's no longer alive, I have my children here. We don't have any food for Shabbos. I mean, we're happy to share with you some of the crumbs that we have, but we don't have anything. He says, you know what, I'll tell you the truth, it's amazing, it's bashert, it's hashgacha pratis. I have with me a whole suitcase full of food, and it's going to go to waste. I'm going to sit here, it's going to spoil, we might as well enjoy it all together. It's gewaldig. So fine, opens the suitcase, she never saw such amount of expansiveness, the food over there, she hadn't had that in years. The children are excited, they're smiling for the first time in a long time. And meanwhile, he looks at the kids, as I said before, and they're wearing tattered clothing. And he turns to the mother and he says, listen, I'll tell you the truth, I have another suitcase with me. This suitcase is full of children's clothing. Now, it's not important how I have it, but l'maisa, I don't need it. It's completely unnecessary for me. If you want it, go through it, take whatever you need. It's completely good with me. So she's like, amazing. She opens it. It's exactly what they needed, all the clothes. It's beautiful. Okay. And Shabbos is going like this. Meanwhile, he's waiting the whole time to meet Eliyahu Navi. He's looking at the door constantly, waiting for Eliyahu Navi to show up. Friday night, nothing happened. Shabbos day, nothing happened. Shal Shudas, Mov Malka. Shabbos comes and goes. Eliyahu Navi never shows up. So after Shabbos is over, he says goodbye to the family, travels back to Baal Shem. He says, Rebbe, I followed the instructions. Eliyahu Navi never showed up. And the Baal Shem says, really? He never showed up? It's unlike him. So they never showed up. He says, okay, you know what? Fine, let's try this again. This coming Shabbos, do the same thing. Show up a few minutes before candlelighting, same spiel. But now, instead of a suitcase full of clothing, have a suitcase full of food like before, and now have a suitcase full of medication. Full of medication. Okay, that's what he does. He goes there, and he knocks on the door, and he goes and he sees that the woman opens the door and he says, you again? He says, yeah, listen. He goes to the whole spiel. I got stuck on the road. Sure, come in. she says, listen, all the food that you brought last week is gewaldig, but it's none left. We don't have any food anymore. He says, you know what? Works out perfectly. I have the suitcase full of food. In the meantime, he notices also that the kids are not feeling well that particular week. They have the flu or the cold, whatever the case may be, and they're all, all tzabrachen. And he says, you know what? I'll tell you the truth. It's amazing. B'ashgacha pratis, they happen to have a suitcase full of medicines. So take what you need now and save the rest for, God forbid if anyone is ever sick, bandages, who knows? Just take it all. I don't need it. I'm just a person traveling anyway. Thank you so much. Mamash amazing. Invite to the whole Shabbos. He's waiting to see what's going to be, in order to show up. Invite to the same thing. Friday night, Shabbos day, Shal Shudas, Mov Malka. No one shows up. So he goes back to the Baal Shem. He says, Rebbe, I did everything the same thing, and Elyonavi still didn't come. He says, really? He didn't come again? There's something very strange. Go back a third time. This time, guaranteed he's going to come. So, okay? But this time, take a suitcase full of food like before, and a suitcase full of blankets, pillows and blankets. So he goes that Friday afternoon. It happens to be that Friday afternoon, winter began to kick in. And all of a sudden it was snowing, it was freezing cold. And he knocks on the door, the same spiel. He says, please come in. Okay? And before he knocks on the door, this is the crux of the story. Before he knocks on the door, he hears from inside the kids are crying. And he hears what's going on, and he hears that they're complaining to their mother. They're freezing cold. Their mom is freezing cold. They have the clothing they have from a couple of weeks ago, but they don't have any blankets and anything, coats. They have nothing, and they're freezing cold. And the mother says the following sentence. The mother says, "Listen, just as Elyonavi came 2 weeks ago and brought us food and clothing, and just as Elyonavi came last week and brought us food and medicine, I'm for sure confident that Elyonavi is going to show up again and bring us food and blankets and coats for the winter." And with that, the person knocks on the door, says, "I'm here, here's the clothing," and so on. And he spends Shabbos with them. And he goes back to the Baal Shem and he realizes what happened. Baal Shem tells him, he says like this, he says, it's not such a big kunz to see Elyonavi. The real kunz is to be Elyonavi. To see Elyonavi, to see someone come and help other people. The avoid of a yid is to be the Elyonavi for other people. You wanted to see Elyonavi, I made you Elyonavi. And that's our avoid. Our avoid in life is not see Elyonavi. Our avoid is to be Elyonavi. So when you see a yid that needs help, that needs some little level of strengthening, of whether it be physical or spiritual, that means that you're Elyonavi for that person's life. Hashem should send us Elyonavi this week. Bezgalia with the coming of Mashiach, Bezkasi in a way of helping other Yidden. It should be a week of Yeshuas, of Nechamas, of Refuas, of Geulas. The B'yis called Tzadikim, Harav Yussie Zakutinsky. Amen.